Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. If you have been following the Dasukigate arms scandal very keenly, you would have noticed that there's a growing pressure on the EFCC to invite former President Goodluck Jonathan to answer to some questions over all the allegations that have been flying around since the entire drama started. The EFCC has said so far it does not have any evidence linking the former president to the scam, saying from evidence available to it, there's no record showing Jonathan authorized the use of the money meant for the purchase of arms for his failed re-election bid. But not everyone is swayed by the position of the EFCC, at least not the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. The group insists that the former president would have to speak on some of the damning revelations that have been made so far on the scam. Now, recently, the group wrote an open letter to the former president demanding that he addressed some key questions on the Dasukigate scam. Now, here are some questions SERAP wants the former president to answer in its open letter. The first one, is it correct to suggest that the budget of over $2 billion to purchase arms for Nigerian soldiers fighting Boko Haram in the northeast of the country was authorized by you or your office? In other words, did your former National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, seek your approval to collect from the Central Bank of Nigeria the over $2 billion meant for purchase of arms for Nigerian soldiers? That's the first question. Now, the second question. If so, Nigerians would like, and this is a follow-up actually, if so, Nigerians would like to hear from you whether the apparent diversion and sharing of our Commonwealth by your former NSA was expressly or implicitly authorized by you. Now, let's take the second question. Is it then correct to suggest that the former NSA implements presidential decisions and not make them? If so, is it also correct to suggest that the apparent diversion and sharing of the over $2 billion meant for purchase of arms was a presidential level decision and that you signed off on it? The next question says, assuming you did not directly order or authorize the apparent diversion and sharing of the over $2 billion meant to purchase arms for Nigerian soldiers, is it fair to suggest that you at least knew or had reason to know that your own former NSA was apparently involved in the heinous crime of corruption, to wit, the diversion and sharing of over $2 billion meant to purchase arms for Nigerian soldiers, and did not take all necessary and reasonable measures in your power as Commander-in-Chief and President to prevent the alleged diversion and sharing of our Commonwealth as explained above? The questions are actually 10 in number, and here is the last one for the former president. Would you now, on the basis of the above, apologize to Nigerians for the apparent diversion and sharing of the over $2 billion and the catastrophic consequences for the Nigerian soldiers and their families, including those who have lost their lives, those unfairly tried and convicted, and millions of displaced Nigerians? Well, those are the questions, 10 of them in number, and of course, an open letter to the former president to answer. Of course, the former president has not answered. Now, I caught up with the executive director of SERAP, Adetokunbo Mumuni, and asked him why his group feels so strongly that former President Goodluck Jonathan should speak out on the issue. Here's what he said.
The former president Goodluck Jonathan should speak is that in a matter as important as this, in a matter that is known worldwide like this, is in town, alive, kicking, it will not be proper for him to keep quiet. And our sense is this: it will not be in consonance with the demand of justice and fairness that the person who was more or less like the chief executive officer of the Nigerian Federation at the time this thing took place should keep quiet. Let's leave legality out of it. It is even the requirements of ethics and morality that the former president will speak. Yes. In spite of what that's why I said we should leave law, legal procedure and legality out of it. That's what the EFCC is talking about. Morality, ethics, the interests of the pauperized Nigerians who are in the overwhelming majority requires that he should speak on this matter.
Are you shocked by, the revelations we've seen so far?
Seriously shocked. You see, it takes me back to the military trial for these soldiers who are said to have refused to proceed as directed by the military. They were said to have refused superior orders. They have said to have violated military rules. But from what we now know, it's like in the past, when they were asked to confront the insurgents, it's like they were directed to go and commit suicide. If the funds available for the purpose of prosecuting the war were not committed to the purpose of equipping the boys. And that takes me to the fact that reduction of the death penalty given to some of them is not enough. I think from what we now know, the President President Muhammadu Buhari should, as a matter of fact, as a matter of ethics, as a matter of morality, grant all these people amnesty, complete pardon. Because how can you say somebody should go and do a work and the implements for executing the job is not given to him, and you are now punishing the person for refusing to carry out the assignment? It's so wicked. To me, all those that are involved, I can say they have complicity in encouraging suicide. They have complicity in the fact that a lot of widows now don't have husbands. A lot of children don't have fathers. And those are heinous crimes. To me, indirectly, those concerned in the distribution or collection of this money, to me, have committed crime against humanity. Because the stealing, the embezzlement is so large-scaled that no fair-minded person would not shudder that something like this had happened.
Now, it's on record that when the scandal first broke out, former President Goodluck Jonathan, while addressing an audience at a forum he attended in the United States of America, was asked to comment on the scandal by a member of the audience, and the former president simply said he did not know anything about the scam and did not approve any $2.1 billion to be shared. Well, since then, more revelations have been made by his former national security advisor and some of those who benefited from the funds, and virtually all the revelations made kept referencing the former president. It's on record that no former president in this country has ever been invited by the EFCC or any investigating organ of the government of Nigeria to account for how they ran the country when they were in power. So would Goodluck Jonathan be the first? What kind of precedent would that be setting? These and more I asked human rights and constitutional lawyer G.T. Ogunye. Take a listen to what he said.
Speak or not to speak is a constitutional right. And so I'm not going to pressure a man to speak if he feels that he shouldn't speak. That would be infringing on that person's right to determine when to speak and not when to speak. But beyond the choice to speak and electing to speak on this issue of the scandals that took place while he was in the saddle and was presiding over the affairs of the country, I would rather believe that it's high time the former president was invited by the EFCC to also come and talk about this matter. And I say so because he was the person on whose desk the mock stopped when he was in power. And that being so, he had overall executive authority and responsibility for what took place in the executive branch of government at the central level in the country. And The Office of the National Security Advisor is an appendage office to the Office of the President. Basically, that office was not an executive authority. In the executive branch of government, it had no power to approve expenditure, so to speak. So when that office now became the office that was distributing largesse, distributing money that was meant for securing the country and prosecuting a very terrible war, then ultimately the person who had authority for such things ought to be called to question. And my view is that it will be necessary at this point to do that, not only because a faction, if we could say that, of the president's former president party is now making that call that it should speak, or because there's a groundswell of public opinion that it should speak, but because it will not be profitable for the EFCC to play the ostrich, calling every other person who was a recipient of money without calling the person on whose authority, given or presumed, that money was disbursed. It's like you calling on every receiver of stolen money to come and account, possibly face prosecution, without calling on the person who took that money, or under whose auspices, or under whose authority that money was taken, to come and account. And I think that it's important to do so. Beyond that, it will also be necessary in the ongoing war against corruption to breach that aura of untouchability, that aura of invisibility that surrounds former head of states of Nigeria. And if the EFCC, for good reasons, not just for the fun of it, not just to intimidate, if for good reasons, the EFCC invites the former president to come and say its own bit, it will at least establish the principle that in our situation, nobody, no matter how highly placed the person may be, is above the law of the land. It's a well-known legal principle that be you never so high, the law is higher than you. And then that precedent will then create the possibility for other former head of states or president, be they involved in the Halliburton scandal or other scandals, to then come forward and also be held to account. I presume that even in that club of the former head of states who are in the Council of State, there will be every move to, no matter how the personal relationship outside it had become, for their own interest, so that the president will not be used to invite them later to come and account. I presume that they will not want him to be invited. But moving forward, I think that that's what the FCC should do, because at a point, it will appear ridiculous if the former president is not invited to come and say his own bit. Why do I say so? We're still dealing with just one thing here, one investigation, $2.1 billion or $6 billion, Dasukigate money. The NDDC is still there. The NNPC is still there.
Well, I'm now being joined on the program by Liberos Oshoma, a lawyer and a political analyst, to discuss this for the Liberos. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
Should I use a biblical quotation now that is it that it will be difficult for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it would be to bring a former president to testify, like in the case of former President Goodluck Jonathan? Do you think we would get to that stage where he would be invited?
I doubt. I doubt we will get there. I was at the beginning of the year, there were a lot of insinuations that EFCC, was going to invite the former president, and that there was even a media report that they were waiting for the approval of the president to do that. And some of us queried why they should wait for the approval of the president, that being an investigating body, they don't need to take instructions from the president on who to invite. If there is an allegation that somebody has a question to answer, you don't need to look at anybody's body language. But when I later heard the EFCC chairman, acting chairman, saying that of all the investigation evidence so far, there is no document
to show that Jonathan actually approved sharing money.
The former president actually approved the sharing of the money. I laughed and I said, oh, what an academic way to excuse the issue. Even at that, the buck stopped at the former president's table, and there is no way, being the custodian of public funds and be the president, there is no way you would approve a budget for the purchase of arms and without getting reports if actually these arms were actually ordered for or if they had been purchased, and yet you didn't do anything. The money was, your aid went to the CBN to collect that money, and yet the arms that they were meant for were not purchased, and then you folded your hands because there was no letter. At that level, they don't write memo authorizing sharing. And everybody, including Aneni, had come out to say, I went on an errand for Mr. President. Dasuki said, Mr. President instructed that I do so and so. Metu said, I did so and so for I used the money for Mr. President. And so at this stage, it's no longer just enough for us to say that because there is no document authorizing that act, that so the person should not be called to question. Because what the statement credited to the EFCC acting chairman, it's like saying we're investigating a crime. And so because there is no document, we can't even question a former president. Nobody is saying you should go arrest him today. Question him. There is need for him to speak on this issue. Did you actually send these people on an errand? And if you send them on an errand, did you authorize them to use these funds for that errand?
Is there a possibility that, I don't know how to put it now. That,
you know why?
That they might be considering it to be demeaning for the EFCC
I think
to
so.
question.
I think so, because if reading Obasanjo's book, My Watch, there was, I think in volume 3 or 2 of that book, he did say that when he wanted to hand over in his first term in 1979, there were pressures on him from other fellow African presidents not to hand over, that handing over is a Western culture, that a king in Africa does not abdicate his throne. And so these offices are viewed like, monarchical office, where they already see themselves as the king. And so it's like calling the king to question. And also, like GT had said, there is this Council of States meeting where all the former heads of states sit down, meet, and discuss. And so at that level, an indictment of one of them
would be like an indictment of all.
It will be like an indictment of all. Might have a multiplying effect, might trigger, okay, if you have done this, if this man can be questioned, then no sacred cow. And then also coupled with the fact that you look at Nigeria, it is easy when we go abroad to call ourselves Nigerians. But are they truly Nigerians? They are no Nigerians. What you have are Edo people in Nigeria and Yoruba. We lean more to our ethnic nationality. That is why even questions of issues of corruption that affect all of us, we would rather, look at it from our ethnic prism than, oh, this man took money that was meant to better the lives of all of us. Oh, this ethnic nationality is being victimized. Oh, this president is being victimized because he's from a minority. Is he the only president that has stole? And all of those issues. I think that's why probably also they are trying to be careful to select their fight. If you cannot match a master blow for blow, you maim his favorite goods. But another thing, looking at it from the legal perspective,
yeah.
I don't also want a situation where all of these persons will go scot-free on the allegation or on the defense that they acted, they obeyed lawful instruction
which would appear to be the case.
Exactly, from the commander-in-chief. And that so, being aides to the commander-in-chief gave instruction, use this money for so and so, give so and so amount to this person, you give to this person, and they simply complied. And the commander-in-chief had not come out to deny or controvert that evidence that I did not instruct them. And the EFCC is saying that there is no document to that effect. It's either documentary or verbal. It can even be implied. And so governance is not just, we all know that it's not about document. And so that is why in this matter and in this fight against corruption, we need to be very careful. We need to ensure that we comb all the corners and we do a thorough job so that we don't leave out loopholes.
Let me quickly ask you this. I mean, you're a lawyer, and whether we like it or not, whether the former president likes it or not, this whole thing has done a lot of damage to his reputation.
Yeah.
There's no question at all. We can't deny that. Do you think, even if at all the EFCC does not question him, do you think he should come out to speak, especially when you lawyers say, well, don't say anything so that it's not used against you in court?
For me, I think they say he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. If you believe that you are not culpable in all of this mess, there's need for you to come out and speak. Except he has a lot to hide. The only reason lawyers tell you don't speak, because whatever you say might be used against you, it's when you know that you have issues or you have evidence or statements affecting the matter under investigation or the fact and issue. And so, before you speak, there is need for you to discuss with your lawyer so that you know what to speak, what not to speak, so that you don't say all when you are not expected to say all. But in this case, if you have nothing to hide, the fact is in the open. The allegation is that you gave instructions to your aide to share money without appropriation. And so, if truly it's either yes or no, I did not do it, I couldn't have instructed my aides to do that. And in fact, when I heard of it, these were the steps taken to investigate if truly this was true. Because you can't say you didn't know, but in the same vein, the arms that you asked them to purchase were not purchased and you folded your hands. Because there will be further questions. And so, but because you know that the moment you speak, it's going to raise a whole lot of further questions. And so you would rather maintain silence. But the more you maintain silence, the more all of the issues keep coming back to you, and all the suspects keep pointing accusing fingers at you. For basically now, it's like almost a defense to all of them now to say, oh, the former president instructed me. The former president asked us to meet with northern elders.
Knowing that the former president may even not come out.
Yes,
anyway,
knowing fully well that
he might not even
former president will never speak up. And so he asked us to meet with northern elders, and we met with, he asked that I should be given 100 million, and I met with northern elders, and I disbursed that accordingly. Oh, he asked us to meet with southern elders, or he asked us to meet with imams for prayer, spiritual cleansing, and all of that, knowing fully well that he will never speak on it. And so it becomes a new form of defense for all of them. That is why it has become imperative. If I were the former president, if I were his lawyer, I would sit him down and say, look, let's sit down and take these issues one after the other, and there is need for us to answer them. You don't need for EFCC to call you, to invite you. For the sake of, and this is somebody we pride as, oh, he handed over, he lost election and he did not contest because he loved Nigeria so much. He relinquished power voluntarily because he had consistently maintained that his election is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. And here we are now saying, because of your acts or omission, a lot of people have died and some are still dying. There is need for you, since your life or your action is not worth the blood of any Nigerian, there is need for you to come out and say, no, I love Nigerians so much, I couldn't have authorized that this be done this way. I, in all honesty, thought that, you know, all the arms, I was shown documents that everything was in place, and being my national security advisor, I had expected that he was working in good faith. Yes, if I did order anybody to be paid, I expected that this money would be paid from the party fund because we had raised funds at the party level. But the situation where even the publicity secretary of the party is alleged to collect 400 million from Dasuki, when there is a coffer, when there is a purse for the party. If you remember also, the party did raise funds.
Yeah, about 21 billion or so.
21 billion for the election.
Well, they said it was for, later they corrected to say it was for their secretariat.
Okay, and so all of these funds, everybody that collected 400 million, 200 million, what did they do for the party? What did they do for the election? Was it to hire halls? Well, was it to print T-shirts?
for instance, has said he's not going to disclose what he used the money for.
Because there is nothing, basically. There's nothing. If there is, it's a defense. Oh, this is, I they expected that this money was coming from the party. And so these are receipts for what I use it for the party. As simple as that. You know, but saying I did something for Mr. President and Mr. President authorized, because that's the defense. And knowing fully well that Mr. President will never speak up. And so, at the end of the day, it's like a 360 circle.
Let me ask you a final question. Do you think we might come to a situation where the EFCC might have no choice than invite the former president?
The way we are going, the EFCC already told us that they have a choice in the matter not to invite him. And that is why, for me, telling us that so far there is no document. Because at this point, this is the peak of the whole investigation, because already we are seeing suspects, accused persons charged to court. So it's like this is almost the end of this investigation, this set of investigation. And so if the FCC had come out at the peak, when almost 80% of the job is done, and then you come out to tell us that, look, there is basically no document from the CNC saying that this money should be shared. But in the same vein, the army chiefs are being arrested and investigated. Is there any document from the army chief instructing Dasuki to share money? If the army chiefs can be invited for questioning, I think the president also can be invited for questioning.
And legally speaking, do you think at the end of the day in court that this might be some kind of strong defense now for those who are facing trial? I mean, if as you said, they go to court and say, look, we're only carrying out a lawful instruction from our superior.
You can't take anything away from lawyers. This might even be, you know. It is when the matter gets to court that, like we say in law, that you now begin to know that is with a comma and is without a comma mean two different things. And so that's when you see the defense lawyer, most especially in our climes where lawyers are not called to question when they unnecessarily delay you know, proceedings, even in matters that, you know, are as clear as water. You know, so you see lawyers who throw in all kinds of defense, and so that might even come, depending on the kind of document they also have to substantiate their defenses. So this might also come as a defense and will also act as a wheel in the clog of justice. So all of this would delay the course of this matter. And then in some cases you hear them calling 30, 40, 100 witnesses just to substantiate this one position. And like they say, if justice delayed is justice denied. And so if the matter drags on for 1 year, 2 years, before you know, everybody will get tired of it and want to move to other things.
Let's just hope it doesn't happen that way. Thank you very much for coming on the program, Libras.
My pleasure.
We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, the fight against corruption now goes to the Customs Service and the Nigerian military. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.